Hello, Abnormal Family. Good to see y'all again. Got another drop for y'all today. Man, I tell you what, it's been a ride. We're doing so good over here on this channel, guys. I'm really enjoying it. I'm getting ready to do another video drop probably tomorrow for our other channel, AI Seeking the Truth. It's growing really big, but I got a big surprise for y'all, and I'm going to tell you at the end of this video. So stay tuned if you want to hear what's coming up. Let's get into today's encounter. I think y'all are going to really enjoy this one. It's called the Yukon Creature. Let's get into it. I'm also an avid hiker. I had last year went to northern Canada on a hiking expedition for a week. I was retelling the story of one of my friends last week, and they suggested I post it. Now we, my friends, significant other and me, were up in the northern part of Canada. The location I won't disclose, as I've always worried about internet stalkers. Anyway, we continued along riding in a big truck, the five of us. The rear of the truck had been decked with a top cover and passage into the front which you could crawl through. It was meant for skis, but we didn't bring them. It was a clear winter night, as me and my friends played MTG in the back. We thought it would be funny, a bunch of people in the middle of nowhere doing the weirdest things possible. We went around and we continued. It was a great time. One of my friends shouted to look at something. He was an avid naturalist and tried to get us to help him identify what he was seeing. Me and my spouse put down our card game and turned to look at what he was shouting about. Looking through the windows, we could see a silhouette of a moose or an elk off in the distance. That quickly disappeared as we drove off. It was exciting to see an animal, the first one of the trip. We kept going on as this was the second day into the trip. We'd stop at camp on Wednesday, and then we would head back over the next week to civilization. A few hours later, Dave stopped the car to sleep. As most of us, short of me, as I still had to work to do, even though I was technically on vacation, my job needed me to keep working. Or, well, I couldn't stop working. I'm not sure if it was personal or just a sense of pride to keep working, but I did it anyway. Dave mumbled something, but I ignored him, mostly because I couldn't hear him over the music in my headphones. I kept working when 20 minutes later I could hear this voice barely over the music. I pulled off my headphones, and as I looked away from the laptop, he was asleep. In fact, everyone had fell asleep. I was the only one awake. I looked behind me out the window, but no one or animals were out there. Sparse trees gave off thin shadows that were barely visible through the moonlight. I travel a lot, and nothing is just a noise from a whisper in the airport to birds call in the rural city. It's all valuable information, as I have always found out. I continued working, but without music. After a good 5 minutes, my spouse wakes up. She looks at me and asks me to keep it down. I tell her I've been dead silent. I decided to take a shift driving, as there was something to do and something going on. And I had done enough note-taking for this point. Starting up the car, taking a quick head count to make sure I've not forgotten anything, everyone is here, and I start off. Glancing in my rearview mirror, I saw that deer again, but this time I only saw antlers as its head was down and the body was hidden behind a tree. I remember this exactly because it was dimly illuminated in the moonlight. Although I thought seeing this deer was cool, I kept driving across the snow ground over the next day. We were almost to our camping spot. We spotted this horned animal a few times more. It could have been several different animals, and we just didn't mind or pay attention. I thought it was a little unusual, but I brushed it off as I'm pretty skeptical. That night we set up camp, which meant assembling the rooftop tent, a mechanical nightmare that somehow made a tent that attached to the roof of the truck. My friend Dave had built it, as this was his truck, and he was more serious about roughing it, as we were. My friend stayed in the tent while me and my spouse were given the truck bed, partially out of respect, partially out of a desire to sleep in the luxurious truck tent. That night, after having a little excitement, I decided to go for a walk. My spouse, exhausted, decided to sleep. I took my machete with me, although the blade was used for tropical foliage and occasional pine branch was no issue. After a while, I started to hear my spouse yelling my name. I could still see the lights of the truck even though it was at a distance, so I turned to walk back to the truck. Then I noticed it was coming from away from the truck. I stopped and listened. When I noticed her voice was exactly the same, like an audio looping. This freaked me the F out. I booked it back to the truck, started it up, which although you're not supposed to run the truck with the tent on top, it was bolted down pretty heavily, but the path ahead was clear, so I wouldn't worry about getting the tent knocked off. Speeding away, I noticed this deer thing charging the truck, managing to keep pace with the truck. It let out this horrific wail. I couldn't describe how terrible this was. I broke down crying as the guy started to bang on the roof of the truck to get me to stop. I crossed the stream. The bumpy rocks probably banged up the friend's goods. Suddenly I heard a gunshot, then a second and a third. Then it stopped, and after 5 more minutes of driving, I stopped at the end of the clearing. The thing was no longer following us. My friends climbed down, put down the tent, and told me to effing drive. I looked back. My spouse's face was glued to the window. She turned her face. It was wet. She was afraid. She was soaked in sweat. She wasn't one for horror movies, and she always cried and got scared. I drove off as my friend and I rode in the deathly silence for the next hours, till the sun came up. That morning we all talked about what happened, and they told me a bit. None of us knew what had happened, but my friend Sean gave the most reasonable explanation, that it was a moose, maybe with rabies. But then my friends started laughing. They said, "Ain't no way that was no moose. Did you all not see that thing stand up on its hind legs when it was racing us on all fours? And did you not see its face? The face resembled a human with a long chin on the moose body." He said that thing was running hard as it could. It would drop to all fours, run on all twos, drop to all fours, all twos, and then hopping and jumping. He said, "I sure believe it was trying to get a hold of the truck." We drove on out of there, skipping the night we had planned to stay one more. We did not want to sleep out there, so we drove through the night we should be sleeping. What do you guys think I seen? I'm not real sure what that would be. Never really heard of anything like that. That's pretty wild. I don't know. A Wendigo, maybe? I've heard people talk about that, but if you go back and you read the real stories, sorry, they actually didn't have horns. That was kind of a made-up thing later. So I'm not real sure. As far as the good news, guys, our other channel, the Wide Open Adventures, is going to be growing really, really good, exponentially, I believe, because my brother, Josh Hughes, I spoke with him. He's going to help me grow the channel. He's an avid outdoorsman also. So y'all are going to get some great fishing videos, probably going to learn a lot about the outdoors. You're going to see a lot of boating, the lake, fishing, camping, probably some cooking on the side of the lake. I'd love to do that with him. And he's an old friend from a long time ago. He's my brother. And I look forward to doing some adventures with him, and I think y'all are going to really enjoy the content. And it's called Wide Open Adventures. Come on over and subscribe. We already got some content over there I believe you'll enjoy. But yeah, it's a really good channel. It's got Hunter in it. And speaking of Hunter, I appreciate each and every one of you that's helping bring Hunter home. And as always, those links are in the description. God bless, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Keep your head on a swivel. Don't be something's dinner. And let's keep this channel rising. See you on the next one, guys.